Are we live? Yeah? Callie, I can't see you. Should I go? I'm doing it. Hi, everybody. I'm Alex Dunn, the person that has been, I feel like, on this stage pretty much nonstop for the last few days. So for those of you who I haven't seen yet, it's nice to see you here in D2. But today I'm excited to welcome you to the Mozilla Foundation Incubator Showcase, which hopefully will be a bit of a different experience than you've had so far, because we're actually going to live anoint a winner to a prize based on presentations that you hear today from 4 fantastic projects who are doing amazing work to bring open source technology to some of the most pressing challenges we are facing. Before we do that and hear from these amazing projects, we're going to have a little bit of a conversation between 2 people working in philanthropy who are trying to get money to these projects to support growth and scale within open source and sustainable projects. So we're going to kick off with Nabiha Syed from Mozilla Foundation and Ellie Bertani from the GitLab Foundation. So if you guys could join me on the stage. Amazing. You're doing great. Also, I feel like everyone needs a light box on their shirt. Right. I'm just throwing that out there. Okay, so we're going to focus on why funding open source projects is so important, why it's so difficult sometimes to seed growth in these kinds of projects, why it's hard to transition from maybe startup ideas that are really exciting and easy to get money for, but then there's this kind of period where it's a bit difficult to sort of reach scale. When we think about these things, both of your foundations are keenly interested in seeding open source projects and making it possible for them to be the technology we want to see and we need to see in the world to make things happen. So let's start off. Do you 2 want to introduce yourselves and say a little bit about what your foundations do for those who may not know you? I feel like it's a bit, after 2 days of being at Mozilla Festival, if you don't know Nabiha, I don't know. But Nabiha, say a little bit about Mozilla Foundation and your role, and then Ellie, if you could do the same, and then we'll dive into the sort of philanthropic approach to making open source technology real.
Cool. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Mozilla Foundation, where we are defiantly optimistic that the future of technology can be good if communities get to build it for themselves. And that means building with you, learning from each other. And so gatherings like this are pretty core to what we do, because we want to imagine together, but also build some stuff. And so It's really exciting to get to talk about that piece of stuff.
Awesome. Thank you. Ellie.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ellie Bertani. I lead GitLab Foundation, born out of the open source company GitLab. Some of you may be familiar with them. We focus on economic mobility and increasing people's lifetime earnings. And a large portion of our portfolio is investing in technology projects, including open source technology projects. And we are really built at our heart as a foundation around this idea of open source, open core ourselves, and so I look forward to talking about that a little bit and how it influences the work that we do.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, so open source is kind of an old way of working, if I can put it that way, but we're seeing people apply these approaches, these practices, these technologies to new problems. Can you talk a little bit about why you think openness matters in this moment in particular?
Sure, I'm happy to kick us off. You're right, open source has been around for a while. Mozilla's been doing open source in its DNA for a very long time, but I think openness is critical in this time, not only politically, technologically, because people don't trust what they can't see. They don't trust what they can't interact with, and openness is a concept that allows people to understand, decide, exercise agency for themselves, and truly understand what's going on. And I have a lot of love for this concept as a person who didn't grow up in open source technology. I'm a First Amendment lawyer by training. I defend journalists and documentary filmmakers, and I had just a very different life, but oriented around the concept of openness as necessary for a healthy functioning society. And we live in this moment now where healthy society and healthy technology feels a little elusive sometimes. And so the idea of openness as that antidote, it's a oldie but a goodie in terms of a concept. And so I think we have a real opportunity to help people demystify both frontiers, how they're working with one another, and then find their place and their exercise of building within it.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
All of the things Nabiha said, and I would say this core issue of trust, as we all know, is so paramount in these times. For technology, for democracy, even for us in the funding community, we think about this a lot. And fundamentally, working in an open manner allows you to move both more quickly and to build more collaboratively better products. I want to talk a little bit about how we think about it from a funder perspective, because as I said, we are sort of built from the DNA of GitLab. We think of ourselves as a radically transparent philanthropy, and we are trying to encourage a community of philanthropies to act as such as well. Philanthropy and funding can be a very, very opaque industry and sector. And we have built our foundation to be very transparent in terms of the results we try to seek. We post all of our data online, both to advocate for our grantees and the results that they're getting, but also to share lessons learned and how we're learning through our now over 160 grants in real time. And we think that's really, really critical. We think about co-creation alongside our grantees, as I know you all do as well. How do you think deeply about the projects they're building and showcase where we may bring in other investors, what other criteria the investors are seeking as they're trying to find projects to fund. And then we really think about how do we build the community as an ecosystem, what public goods can we produce that are valuable to funders so that they in turn can fund more technology projects like this. So really feel that it's fundamental both to technology, but should be used more broadly in other sectors as well.
And if we sort of zoom out from your two organizations, there's obviously this ecosystem of money going into open source projects. It looks different at different times and from sort of different vantage points. Do you guys want to talk a little bit about the state of funding for open source technology as you see it?
It's not growing, but it should be. And I would love to hear your diagnosis of why. I want to stick with another observation in philanthropy, which is I think there is often a lot of excitement about what is new. If something is new and shiny and has a buzzword in it, people are really excited. You can mobilize capital for that. And what that means in the ecosystem is that you get a lot of really great prototypes of people who are very excited to experiment, but there aren't really resources for people who fall into this valley of death in between where, you know, you've done your initial experiment, you've figured something out, there's a there, but it needs time to mature and to mellow and to find its product community fit. And there aren't really spaces in the ecosystem for that. Of course, if something hits it out of the park, it'll be able to find some sort of resourcing, whether it's philanthropic, figuring out its own sustainability models, finding grassroots resourcing. But there are so many incredible projects that just don't even get the chance to get there because there isn't resourcing in that middle space. And so the team at the foundation, folks that are here, like Mayhan sitting in the front row, who's been doing this work for a long time, interviewed the 800 Tech for Good projects that we had funded over the years and really learned that that middle ground, that valley of death was so precarious and no one was stepping in. And so I think first identifying this like shiny new problem is a real issue in the field, and the overall pie is also shrinking.
Agree. I think what we see is fundamentally, first of all, insufficient capital going to this space. When we run open RFPs for technology projects, and we have a fairly large fund where we support AI for economic opportunity projects, and technologists come to us. We just closed our most recent round. We have 798 applications, of which we will be able to fund 15, right? And our last round, similarly, we were able to fund 14 projects. Of the 500 applications, there were probably 270 fundable, high quality, well thought through initial ideas that we would have loved to fund. So first, there's insufficient capital just being moved into the space. I think it's a bit because in philanthropy, we don't have a lot of people with technology experience. There is a dearth of talent and expertise, and I think that makes some people more reluctant to fund in that space. So it's something we're thinking a lot about. How do you bring more talent into the space? Also, there is this sort of valley of death issue where there's insufficient coordination among funders. So part of how we've tried to solve this as a foundation is we have built formal relationships with larger funders like the Ballmer Group and the Gates Foundation, where as we put 15, hopefully in the future 30, 60 projects a year through our incubator, we have pre-commitments from larger funders to scale up at the tune of, our funding is around $250,000, $1.5 million for the next stage, where Ballmer and Gates have pre-committed to funding those projects so they won't have to go through that valley, that waiting period, that potential where they may lose the talent or have to stop the project. So more coordination among funders is really important, and I think recognizing that different funders have different risk appetites is really important in starting to map where funders sit, what types of risks they're willing to take, because there's a lot of political risk these days, as well as just execution risk and leadership risk, as we think about who might be in the next stage of funding to cover those gaps.
Just to jump on that, I think the coordination piece and co-learning is really important. You're totally right that a lot in philanthropy don't really understand the ecosystem of technology development, particularly open source technology development. So you'll see a lot of mimicking the language of like, what's the scale and what's the adoption? And whenever I hear that, I think of that XKCD cartoon about, or graphic about open source technology and how there's just like one little piece of this Jenga pile and it's like an open source.
And if it went away, the entire thing would
exactly.
collapse.
It's like there's just like one little piece that's holding up this entire ecosystem, and it doesn't have scale in the way that we think about scale in terms of number of people who adopt it, but so much is reliant on that particular open source library, tool, whatever, that like if you removed it, you would collapse the whole Jenga tower, right? And so the way it works in open source is actually a very different mental model than how people think of like, well, is it gonna be the next meta replacement? And you're like, that scale thinking doesn't really fit here.
Yeah.
And it's okay for people in philanthropy to not necessarily understand this ecosystem. We have a responsibility, I think, to create the spaces and also help people learn in those spaces to draw them in to fund.
And I would say too, sustainability is obviously not just about money. So when you think about what you want to see for these projects longer term, if they're to sort of be healthy, grow in these ways, what does sustainability actually entail as they're moving through their life journey as products?
So we think about sustainability, I mean, financial sustainability is critical in terms of typically maintaining the lifespan of the talent in particular that it takes for the core product. We also, we've been thinking a lot about how to support nonprofits in their sustainability journey, and considering potentially having a fund at some point that helps different nonprofits and open source technologists explore different business models or different sustainable models that may allow them to maintain their existence longer. And that could look like many, many different things. We see lots of different models out in the ecosystem, but giving organizations the space to experiment and to take risks with different business models, I think is something that we're going to be exploring soon.
Yeah, having the space to experiment and explore feels really critical, not only in terms of business models, though that's extremely important too. In our incubator, making sure that you have advice on like governance. And also, is there risk? Are there evaluations we're not thinking about? Do you have the partnership and the mentorship to see around the corner for really common pitfalls that an organization and many organizations before you may have stumbled over is really important, right? Like figuring out the money is one very important piece of the puzzle, but like any organization, there's a lot of other things that you can trip over. And so making sure there's space to do that while also having safe space to like learn and say, oh, I don't actually know about this. Do you know who I can talk to? Especially if you're running something lean, you have 24 hours in the day, right? Like there's a lot to learn. There's a lot to do. Like I launched my last thing and realized 24 hours is not enough when you're trying to get something off the ground, and having a Rolodex of people to call, of experts to rely on, is enormous. Obviously, the capital matters too. So in our incubator, the first cohort will receive $100,000 per program. In the second, which will be about democracy and AI, it's a $1 million pot overall. So the resourcing matters, like money matters, okay? Let's not be silly about it. Money really matters. But advice, expertise, space, camaraderie, connection with a community, including a community of early adopters, really matters. And that's something that, especially for MozFest as we grow, like to think of this community as a community of people who are early adopters, will give you feedback, will like cheer you on, and also hold you accountable if something's not working the way you think. That is a dream for us of what MozFest becomes that's that community who are like, yeah, good tech, we want to make that happen. We're in it with you, and we'll help you out in the beginning. So that support matters a lot.
Yeah, totally. Okay. If we go deeper into this question of the kind of awkward middle phase for a lot of these projects, the like teenage years maybe, do you want to talk specifically about how your organizations are trying to sort of target that point? I mean, you mentioned some examples of trying to create continuity between the financial resources that are available, but do you want to say a little bit about sort of how you all are handling this strange gap between the startup phase and the scale phase for projects?
Yeah, for us, it's the incubator is really the way that we're creating the shape and the community of resources and knowledge around doing that, because having a place that people know they can go to get that is key. You're navigating so much when you're building something, knowing that you have like, that's the lighthouse, that's where we're going is really important. So the incubator is both our intervention on the capital needs, but also all the other advisory and expertise needs and community needs that you might have.
Yeah, and just to break that down, we too have an accelerator for our AI fund that we've been building and iterating over time. There's sort of three things I think are really critical to ensure that a project long-term is successful. And we touched on one, which is the business model and the sustainability in one way, shape, or form of that body of work. Also, obviously, ensuring that you're getting product market fit. We have a lot of nonprofits that are really, really focused on building the thing and have not thought through the product roadmap and adoption over time. And so we do a lot of wraparound with consulting support to ensure that they're really thinking down the line and are pulling those thoughts forward and experimenting early up front. And then and then there's a third that I'm not thinking of right now.
Stop trying to find it, it'll come to you.
No, we won't. But I think what's incredibly important, and to your point, is not just the community, but the alumni network you put around these organizations, because that mentorship, that coaching over time, and those shared stories of what works and what hasn't. You need examples when you're an entrepreneur, and particularly a social entrepreneur, going through these stages to ensure that you're not making the same mistakes, that somebody has tracked this road before you, and you can turn to someone for help, even in the simple things like, how do I manage my board? How do I think about moving into a new maybe market, a new set of users? And so like that community is critical as well.
Yeah, I think you need the community for examples, but also for the room to know when and where and how to innovate. Because I think the magic of creating these, whether it's an accelerator, an incubator spaces, is also finding the opportunities for cross-pollination. So our first cohort is focused on making the invisible visible and really focusing on climate. Our second is on democracy and AI. And when I think about, like, if I zoom out 10 years of doing this, how do we find the questions that are normal in one particular domain that don't get surfaced somewhere else? But if they were to meet and find one another, what productive frictions could actually help drive innovation that isn't predictable, right? And so I think what's exciting about having risk capital, which is what philanthropy is, really take up this mantle. Should be,
Yeah, right.
is, manifestation is important, is.
Sounds
is,
great.
It could be more.
It is, it will be, we will will it into existence. What risk capital should be is more patient than other types of capital. We should be more willing to take pro-social experimentation. We should be willing to say, listen, these are the examples of how it's been, and you could do that, and we're gonna tell you about what's great about the well-trodden path. Here might be a moment that you would do something you've never thought of before, but with intention. And all of that requires like patience, space, cross-pollination, introductions. It's the human side of making anything work, and that we need more of. And money too, also money. But
And frankly, the human problems are usually the hardest to solve,
Of
right?
course,
We see that in our
always.
projects. The technical problems solvable, it's the human issues where they tend to get stickiest.
Well, it's also probably the newest for the operators, right? Like, you have people who will start an organization, they have domain expertise. They're like, I don't need your advice on how to do climate measurement, goodbye. But the human piece or the governance piece or the, looking ahead around the corner risk evaluation piece, those are the parts that are often not, understandably, in the skill set of someone who has a
Managing
new
the
venture.
team, finding the right talent. all
And
of
those
those.
are the pieces where it's like, okay, like, we know who to talk to, we can help you out with that.
So you don't have to throw shade with this one, but what types of...
How else could we live? What other ways there of being?
I was just inviting you if you didn't want to. It's fine. But what types of open source work do you feel like are underinvested now? So when you see the capital that's not being deployed in ways that you think would be strategic, like where would you want to see that money go? Like what would it look like to seed momentum in these spaces in ways that you feel like are strategic, outside of your own?
I wish I saw more investment in Global South needs, low bandwidth optimization, offline applications. I think there's a lot that we assume because of where we are and who we typically support, and there's a lot of opportunity and a lot of needs to think in a different frame when you're thinking about markets further out.
Plus 1 billion. I at least have heard, I'm curious if you've heard this too, is that you'll hear from a lot of global north organizations of like, oh, well, it's a little risky. We don't understand the risk there. What's the follow-on resourcing? And so the gap and the need for more attention for global south investment isn't because there isn't talent.
Right.
It's not because there aren't a enormous number of incredible projects. It's that the capital sits where the capital sits and doesn't have an easy vector for like being like, oh, okay, I get what you're doing, even though your deck might not look like a person from Wharton put your deck together, right? So there's like an element of translation there in order to unlock the capital, but the ideas and the talent and the attention to like actual real problems is there.
Technology for informal economy, right? Like
Yes.
there's all sorts of opportunity.
There's so much, and so I think it's like getting the resources to the right places. It's not really about like, we have a talent problem. There's no talent problem. It's a resourciving problem.
Yeah.
Is that enough shade?
Yes, but I'm going to invite
we
you
can do more.
further down this path. What do you wish private philanthropy would do to support open source technology? So not you all, but like other capital around, saying yes, fund projects that are from global majority countries or sort of see themselves as risk capital, which I think is a really helpful frame, and I think should motivate maybe some people. But what more do you want to see them doing in terms of supporting the ecosystem of projects that are doing this kind of work? And if you could sort of, I don't know, be queens for a day and tell them what to be doing, what would you be telling them to do?
We are queens every day.
For yourself. What we do, more capital, more coordination, more capital. I mean, it's a little bit of what I said before. I also, just from where I sit, I do think there's a talent gap often in the nonprofit sector because the incentives aren't well aligned. There's not a ton of upside, other than moral upside and the feeling like you're really delivering something very impactful for the public. And I feel like there's something interesting philanthropy could do there. We could do very creative things in this sector with incentive structures. We could build a bonus fund for, amazing leaders that deliver at a certain, in a certain way with a certain impact.
I like this.
There are
Other
creative
ideas?
ways
Yeah,
we can think about, and how do you attract more talent in when they know they're going to get paid less and there's less upside? Like, this is a big issue in this sector if we really believe we want to build technology for the public good. So I think it's something we need to think about more seriously as a sector. How might we address it?
Yeah. Plus 1. And also just talking openly about risk appetite, to pick up something you mentioned earlier. I totally understand that everyone answers to someone else. And so you want to bet on a project where you're like, well, will it fit my metrics? Mm-hmm. Will it look good for the 3-year review of this portfolio I have to submit to the CEO of the foundation? I think having an open conversation about what are the metrics we're using to evaluate open source technology? And it doesn't need to be that 1 million people are using this. It's, does the product we're building fit the community need? Mm-hmm. Is that solving a good? What is the idea of enough and sustainable and healthy and value creating and providing that is enough rather than like a growth obsession? And I think it's really fascinating to see how much scale thinking has pervaded even the tech philanthropy space. It is a present concept, right? So how do we build this concept of critical mass, enough, serving your community is good enough and is actually great? And what that boils down to is something so boring and so simple, of like, what are the metrics you're using to evaluate your particular portfolio, which aren't usually an area of that much experimentation, except for at GitLab, where you do a lot of it.
We do a lot of that. It's for another time.
No big deal. Okay, well, I feel so we're about to hear from some projects that are going to get up on stage and share something they've been pouring their heart and soul into with resources from the incubator, which is wonderful. Any final words for them as they kind of get into the game and the headspace of presenting their projects?
You got this. It's great. You're amazing.
Can't wait.
Awesome. Okay, I think you guys can go that way.
Great.
I'll
We're
go
gonna
that
go that
way.
way.
We'll move chairs that way.
Exit stage left.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, so we've just been talking a little bit about I don't know, how hard it is to have the idea to set something up, the commitment to build something, and then actually getting the funding to make it real. And we are now going to kind of bring that conversation to life by hearing from some projects that have been doing just that. As Nabiha was talking about, this first cohort of this incubator was really focused on making the invisible visible. So looking at building tools to serve communities, advance data transparency, and support environmental justice. Let's see, what else should we share before we get these guys on the stage? And the goal here isn't just, as you've just heard, to provide money. It's also to provide hands-on support as they're going through this journey of developing their projects from the startup phase to hopefully reaching levels of scale. And each of the teams was selected to participate because of the nature of the problem they're addressing, which you're going to learn more about in just a second. And it is really amazing, the work that they're doing, and the promise that their tool has to solve that problem and the sort of potential for long-term growth. So over the next hour, you're going to hear directly from 4 of these projects, and this is how it's going to work. So each is going to come up and present for 5 minutes, and it is going to be timed and tight, and they have put so much work into these presentations, and when they're finished, we're going to give them a massive round of applause for getting up here and being so vulnerable and sharing these projects. And then after that, in a sort of reality TV style format, we're going to have 3 judges over here who have been a part of the journey and have learned about these projects over the last few weeks, are going to watch these presentations and have just a few things to share about their reflections on the projects. Once we hear from each of the 4 projects, you are going to get an opportunity to tell us which you think should win this showcase. So that is going to be kind of, I don't know, it's going to be tense. I'm not quite sure what's going to happen. So how it's going to go is you're going to see a QR code on the screen. I'll explain this to you in just a minute. You don't have to remember for the next hour that that's what's going to happen. And the project with the most votes is going to be invited to next year's Mozilla Festival with an all-expenses paid trip and will be featured on the GitLab blog, which I have been told is a big deal. And it is a way of centering their projects within the open source community so that they get attention, energy, community support, and are platformed in a way that is meaningful as they continue on their journey to build their projects. So that's what we're going to be doing. Is everybody ready for this? All right. Okay. So before we have our first project present, can I invite our judge panelists? Judge sounds negative. We're gonna call them critical friends. Yeah. Or just friendly friends. Friendly friends. I've been. Here we go. And they're sitting over here so that we can actually see the deck of the presenters. So let me see. You guys don't have mics, do you? You do have mics. Great. You have 1 mic between you. That seems appropriate. Okay. Okay. So could each of you really quickly introduce yourselves and your work, just so people have a sense of how much expertise and what kind of expertise you're bringing to this conversation. So Abeba, you want to go first? Yeah.
I'll start.
Yeah.
Hi, Abeba Burhani, she, hers, and I am an assistant professor of AI in Trinity College Dublin. I also lead a research team for the AI Accountability Lab, and our expert areas are evaluation and audits of AI systems, platforms, training data sets, and so on. Yeah, I think that's good enough.
Thank you, Abeba.
I'm Chad Fowler. I have been developing open source software and communities since the 90s, hence the gray hair. And after that, I've been CTO for a number of companies, and now am a VC, CTO and GP at Blue Yard Capital, where I try to focus on humanity-friendly investments.
Nice.
Hi, I'm Gemma Clavell. I'm the CEO at Éticas AI, where we audit and inspect AI systems to quantify harm and mitigate harm, and also strive to share as much as we can from our methods, the benchmarks that we use to try to build a movement around the quantification of those harms and the ability to make algorithms more transparent. We also have a foundation, a nonprofit where we work with communities impacted by AI to reverse engineer the systems that are harming them. So I'm very happy to be here, and we have raised VC capital, so hoping to bring a bit of that experience to the members of the incubator.
Nice. Okay, thank you. All right. Okay, thank you to our judges. I mean critical friends, I mean friendly friends. Can we get the slides up? There we go. That looks so nice. Okay, so first we're going to hear from a project that uses AI to detect harmful gas emissions from satellite data, all with a community-focused vision. So I want to welcome to the stage JC from iClimate. All right, so here's your, if you push this, it'll advance the slide. Actually, okay, yeah, great, cool. Okay, you've got 5 minutes on the clock. Okay.
Here we go. Thank you so much, Alex, for this nice introduction. And thank you so much for everybody for giving us the opportunity to be here at the MOSFest and talk about our project. I'm JC Valakulata, and I'm here with our company iClimate, and specifically our project Methane Mapper. As the name suggests, Methane Mapper detects undetected methane emissions. But why are we interested in methane as such? This one single gas is responsible for 30% of the total global warming. So to put that into perspective, the amount of heat that carbon dioxide can trap in 100 years, methane can do that in just 1.2 years only. So that's a huge amount. And the main contributors to the methane emissions is the oil and gas industry, since the extraction of oil and gas has methane as its side product. So there is a kind of a low-lying fruit, and if we can tackle the problem at this stage, we can solve about 11% of the global warming problem instantly at this stage already. On top of this, there are also economic benefits and motivations behind this. Methane emissions face significant regulatory fees. It is very laborious and also expensive to monitor. And methane is a toxic gas that poses severe health and safety issues, both for the operators on site as well as people who live on the vicinity. As part of our our phase 1 grant, we analyzed all of the Texas Permian Basin, and Methane Mapper identified over 20 large emitters. On the left-hand side, you see one such large emitter and a family that lives within a 1-mile radius of this emission site. We visited this family and talked to Lara, and heard that this family was going through severe health crisis over the past decade. We ourselves couldn't actually stand there for more than 30 minutes because the air was so pungent and the air was so bad. And we learned that her daughter recently actually went through early labor and lost her baby. Her horses on the ranch died, and her husband developed severe health conditions that he cannot work and support the family anymore. So you see, there is an actual, real problem on site with these type of emissions. And we think there is a big need to make such emissions visible and accessible to everyone so we can actually tackle these problems. Our AI model, Methane Mapper, utilizes fixed, airborne, and satellite imagery to provide complete monitoring from a global all the way to a local level on the ground. And this is all done fully automated using our own AI technology
and we can deliver this at more than 90% accuracy. Here I would like to show you one such example. This middle picture shows methane mapper detecting and quantifying different methane emission sources very close to each other and under strong wind conditions. And as part of our work, we published the largest public methane release data set that hasn't been around before that. And we are very proud to say that about 400 data set downloads were already done in the past 2 years only, and over 100 research citations citing our work has been done. And moreover, our reports and data sets have led to 4 complaints against emitters filed to the Texas Commission for Environmental Quality. So this is a very big first step for us. In the year 2024 to 2025, we were also monitoring 3,000 kilometers of high-pressure gas pipelines, and we were able to find 50 leaks in those pipelines. And closing these leaks, we were able to abate about 12,000 tons carbon equivalents of carbon equivalent. Sorry. So you can see we have like real things that we can do with this. Moving forward, we want to move and expand Methane Mapper to 24 landfill sites across Nigeria, and we're currently working with a ground team to build a team in Nigeria to quantify and verify those emissions that we are detecting with the Methane Mapper on the ground. And once we have the system set up, we want to expand to the whole country and monitor all the landfill sites in that area. The team behind this work are all researchers from renowned universities around the globe. And if this is exciting to you as it is for us, please share and connect us to like-minded people. We're also interested in getting business mentorship because, as you can see, we are all researchers, and we would really benefit from having mentorship on the business level so we can take our company to a global successful level. Moreover, we are also looking for investment because we want to scale up our resources, both on the computing end of things and on the people end of things, so we can meet the ever-increasing customer demands that we're facing.
All right.
That's all from my side.
Nice. Nice. Do you want to sit there for a minute? Okay. We're just creating the tension, the reality TV tension here. Gemma and Chad, I think you were going to be responding to this project. Do each of you want to share a thought or two about the presentation and the project overall?
Sure, yeah, I think that was great. Big fan. I think that quantifying harms to the environment and people is crucial because that's what unlocks the possibility of accountability. But I like you so much that I want you to exist for a long time. And so my feedback would be you need to focus on sustainability. What are the things that will allow you, independently of investment? Investment is important, but more important than investment should only be the key to unlocking revenue and ways for you to make money independently. And I see so much potential here. You could be selling this to regulators and those responsible for monitoring those emissions. You could be selling this to lawyers who may want to launch cases and prove how harm is being done. You may even want to sell this to methane emitters who want to control how much they are emitting to make sure that they are not subject to fines. Like, I think there's so much potential there for you to be able to generate revenue that also allows you to continue to focus on impact and helping those communities and people impacted. So I think your next step should be to think about those things, and I really see that you have a huge opportunity to grow and thrive. This is really important work.
Also very excited about what I see here, and as a nerd, I look at this and I think, how can I help? Now, of course, I'm a VC, and there's that sort of way, but The first thing I was thinking, VCs say that, it's a joke. But I mean, like, you need compute resources. How can we galvanize a community of people that just provide compute resources and build technology around it so that you can do that? How can you, and the fact that you have like this like global climate thing that's very hard for people to wrap their brains around, but then very specific health issues, and the story is very compelling, sad and horrible and compelling. I feel like you can get locals to help you too. And so I'd like to see like marketing and outreach and pushing both developers and local communities around this. I think you could create a movement out of this.
Amazing. Yeah. Super good feedback. Okay, well, thank you so much. This is amazing. I'm going to take this down. Amazing. Okay. Okay, our next project is working on local air quality forecasting with machine learning predictions. So I want to invite Fernanda from Proyecto Respira to, oh, the judge's feedback, got that already? We're good? There we go. But welcome Fernanda to the stage. So this advances and this goes back. You got 5 minutes.
Good day, everyone. My name is Fernanda Carles. I am an engineer coming from Asunción, Paraguay, and I am the founder and tech lead of Proyecto Respira. We're a project that works in giving people in Asunción, the city that I'm from, information about the air quality in the city, using monitoring data and also AI forecasting systems. But before I talk to you more about the project, I really want to talk to you about the underlying problem that we are trying to solve. Air quality is a really big problem in Paraguay and also all over Latin America and the global south. And this is an environmental problem, but at the same time, I think it's important to start thinking as climate change as a public health problem as well. And this problem is affecting the most vulnerable people in our community: children, the elderly, and also people with baseline health conditions are suffering the consequences of this, and they are getting sick, and most of the time they don't even know why. And this is because in the global south, and especially in Paraguay, there are no open source data around this problem. So people don't really know when the air is bad. Air pollution most of the time is invisible, and people don't really notice it until they get really sick. So the big question that we are trying to kind of give an answer to with our project is, how can we ¿cómo podemos hacer que la información ambiental sea un derecho para todas las personas? How can we give people the tools that they need to start taking care of themselves and their loved ones? And this is what we're trying to do with Proyecto Respira. We're a project that was born as a research project from the National University of Asunción, and thanks to the support of the Mozilla Foundation, we were able to build a product that people are actually using every day to take care of themselves. We have an AI forecasting system that is connected to a web application and also daily alert bots. And people are using this in the same way that they are using a weather forecast. They check it every morning and see if it's a good day to go outside, to exercise outdoors, or even if they have to give their children a mask before going to school. As I mentioned, this started as a university project, and we are using data from the National University of Asunción Air Quality Sensor Network. But since its beginning, the project has also gone to collaborate with the open source community in Paraguay. Here you can see one of our workshops where people, regular citizens, such as, for example, Christian and his son, come into our workshops to learn how to build their own air quality sensors. And Christian was very excited to do this because he and his son are both science lovers who also have asthma. And they were very excited to kind of have this in their home and bring this information not only to their family, but also their entire community. And we had really amazing results with this project at the start, and we are continuing to have amazing results. In the first month of operation, we had over 6,000 new users, and we also got a lot of attention from the media because we're Paraguay's first air quality forecasting platform. We know that people really like this tool, that they use it every day. And now we're entering this new phase of the project where we are thinking more about sustainability. How can we make this project, how can we keep this project alive? And for this, we are focusing this year on 3 things. The first is we want to achieve data independence and expand to other cities. We want to stop relying only on university data and start collaborating to have more sensors in other cities and also have sensors of our own, because now we use third-party data for all of our work. Second, we want to start building new systems to support other types of environmental data. Paraguay has a lot of issues with pollution, such as water pollution and even noise pollution that comes from data centers and crypto miners that are installed in our country. And third, we want to try to achieve sustainability through collaborations with the private sector. We see that our technologies can be adapted for use cases that can be useful for industries, such as, for example, environmental licensing, and also through corporate responsibility programs. We're a small team of engineers collaborating with the National University of Asunción. We are keeping the project alive, and now we kind of want to ask for your help. There are, well, that looks weird, but okay.
It's just more money. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So we're looking for, first of all, we want to have more connections and visibility and technical support from the open source community. We think that our technologies are completely open. They can be reproduced anywhere. And also we want to collaborate with other people who are excited about the project and have new ideas on how we can make it grow and make it better. We also really need help with the business model aspect of things. We think that this is going to be one of the biggest challenges that we face next year because we want to keep our project as open as possible, but also we want to be sustainable and try to not compromise our original vision for the project. This is very important to us. And finally, we are looking for financial support to start acquiring more sensors and also to compensate the people who are keeping this project alive. Muchas gracias. Thank you everyone from Proyecto Respira.
Okay, amazing, thank you. Now we have the judges' feedback. Yeah. Okay, so I think it's Gemma and Abeba. Who wants to go first? Who wants to share thoughts?
Yeah, I'm happy to go first. I mean, I love this project. The fact that it's done by communities, it's part of like the community is building these systems. They are part of the participatory mechanism and so on. And the fact that you are part of that community makes it that you know what you are doing, you can relate to the problems, and so on. I love the fact that it's empowering people to monitor the air quality, to be informed about it. However, having said that, there are a couple of pointers. One is that sensor data can be associated with people, with activities, and so on. So there is a potential for misuse, abuse, even for surveillance, for the use of surveillance. So these are things I hope you would consider and put guardrails in place. Another issue, this is not particularly to do with your project, but in general, when you are working on this kind of projects that are rooted in empowering communities, you are far from business models. You are far from building an organization that can make sustainable business, because the issues of communities and initiatives that make profit tend to be on the opposite side of a spectrum. So as an academic, not as business entrepreneur, I can try to understand how you are trying to expand it into sustainable business model, but there might also come a conflict of interest or the potential being co-opted, for greenwashing and so on. And very quickly also, I mean, you are doing brilliant in surfacing, and you are also the first project to actually do this. But I feel a lot of the focus is on individuals, informing individuals, making sure that individuals are aware so they can take control. But at the end of the day, these problems can be traced and rooted back into structural issues. So maybe think about how the knowledge you are producing can be used to challenge the root cause of these problems, which tend to be large organizations, industries, the big oil, big pharma, and so on. So yeah, I hope you kind of incorporate those pointers. But a lot of the, I don't want to call it criticism, but constructive feedback is not particularly to do with your project, but projects that tend to do this kind of work. Thank you.
That's great feedback. Thank you, Abeba. Gemma, thoughts?
Sí, gracias, Fernanda, por el trabajo. I think that you're very right in putting the focus on your next steps on the independence of the infrastructure and data. I think that your reliability, your reliance on third-party data and infrastructure is a major liability for the project. So I think that is the right approach to focus on that. But that is one of the right now the risky points of the value proposition that you are putting forward. Another thing is that there's been lots of similar apps in the past. In Barcelona, there was a big movement when I was younger to people installed Raspberry Pis in their balconies to measure the quality of air. And the interest of people kind of died down. So I think that adoption is a huge challenge for you. And you're going to find that if you are successful, a lot of your resources will go into making sure that people get value from interacting with these apps. So I think that in your business model, that needs to be a cost, a really important cost that you're gonna have. I think that right now you're benefiting from the novelty of the offering, but that's gonna die down, and so do build that in. And thinking about the sustainability of the initiative, I think you want, on the one hand, you want impact. One thing that happened in Barcelona was that, yes, we could measure how polluted the air was, but no one did anything about it. So you need to have wins. You need to have policy wins. So maybe find allies in public administration, or even the private sector. Maybe there's a mall that wants to pay you to have a visual thing of the air pollution. To be like, come to the mall because here the air is clean. And that could be one of the ways that you make money, but kind of changing things and making sure that it's useful to track this, because then change happens. Otherwise, people are just going to get tired. And then also in terms of the business sustainability, maybe you can license parts of what you're doing, not the open source infrastructure, but other things like maybe the usability parts, or like help other cities do similar things. So again, I think there's a lot of potential for you to grow and find ways to be sustainable, but there's also challenges that you're going to have to address.
Amazing feedback. Okay, thank you so much, Fernanda. Put our hands together for Fernanda. The audience is voting, just to let you know. It's not going to be Abeba. Okay, so we're now going to be moving to using technology, sort of understanding our physical world, to trying to use technology to understand the implications that using technology has on the environment. And we are going to hear from Code Carbon, who's trying to help us better understand the carbon footprint of our online activity and the way we use computers. So Benoit from Code Carbon is going to be up next. You got how many minutes? How many minutes?
5 minutes.
You got it.
So I'm Benoit I'm the president of the non-profit of Code Carbon, as you may understand. And the problem we address is that you may be aware of the IT, in the world IT, I mean also your smartphone and servers, it's 5% of the electricity in the world. Oh, sorry. But in the US, only the data center already represents 5% of the electric consumption. And the forecast is that in only 3 years, it will have doubled. So we think we need a way to make people aware of this problem, or I mean the practitioner of AI mostly, because AI is the problem, to measure the energy. And I'm talking about energy, but energy is also a proxy to water consumption. Also, it's new hardware that made consumption, so you have to think of e-waste and mining and things like that. And so our vision is to allow people to have a tool to make measurement. I mean an open source tool, and also have a community to people being aware of the problem. And our solution is a Python package, so it's very technical. You have to install it on a server, but we think it's a way to have real metrics of what happened on these servers. And so it's been born in 2020, so it's quite an old project, built in an AI lab. And what we build is this package, do measurement, and we show measurement on a dashboard. And to making the invisible visible, we give you some equivalents. For example, this test is equivalent of 4% of US house consumption for a year. And who use Code Carbon? So it's mostly data scientists and researchers, and some people at Hugging Face, for example, use it to build this AI energy score to make something that is very simple to understand in the end to choose some models. Or data scientists could use it to try different models and choose one that best fits their need but also don't have so much emission. And our community is quite worldwide, mostly in United States, but we saw also China, and we saw that it quite represents the AI usage in the world, I think. And yeah, we have so far 50 contributors, and I don't know all of them. It's quite funny to have contributors that we even don't know. It's the best thing about open source. And where we need support in every aspect, and not only money, and mostly not money, because it's an open source tool, so you could use it, you could give us feedback, you could talk about it around you. And we also ask support to find a sustainable way to continue the project in the long term, and so it's really interesting to work with Mozilla on this aspect. And yeah, we are a team of many people, but mostly we are 4 being here in the room, and also with Sasha Lucioni, which is a well-known researcher about impact of AI. And thank you very much for listening, and thank you for Mozilla for having us here.
All right. To the hot seat, sir. Okay. We have Chad and Abeba are going to give feedback on this one. Who wants to go first? Yeah, Chad?
Cool. Yeah, this really scratches my nerd developer itch. Do you remember when developers figured out that you could put dynamic badges in GitHub README pages, and they would be rendered, and they could do like programmatic stuff on the back end? It became, like, developers are really fashion dorks. They just follow the fashion. I don't know if you've noticed this as
developers. That's not the take I get, but yeah.
Yeah. I mean, look at me. But no, it really is like there's always some new thing that you have to follow, and they react very much to like being propped up for being cool and for being shamed. And when this thing happened with GitHub, you had these badges, it became like sort of necessary for every open source project to have one of these badges that said like their Travis CI test suite passed, which means you had a test suite and it passed. And sometimes it breaks, that's not okay, you know? And so you'd look through GitHub projects and be like, no, that one sucks, or GitLab eventually projects. And got to reference GitLab, of course. My point is not that you have to embed these things in GitHub, and maybe you have something like this in Hugging Face already, but it feels like there is a chance to like get developers feeling like they have to show this to like be okay, to be not bad developers, because that's sort of how it is, you know? Like, I'm a good developer, so I do unit testing, and I've got good code coverage, and I've got good like code complexity and all these sorts of things. I think if you can figure out a way to do that so that it's just like ever present and everyone expects it on every project that uses a model or has a model. I know that's weird because it might be that like you have a commercial company, and this is where it really matters, where you're using these big models. They don't want to tell you what the model is. Maybe there's like some sort of zero knowledge proof tech where you could like show that you have a good score from this thing without actually exposing what you're using for security reasons or whatever. So that's the thing, just like exploit developers' need to show everyone how good they are and make this a fashion choice that everyone then follows and see if you can make a movement out of it that way. Otherwise, excellent.
That's great feedback.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I agree with that. I've been working in the AI space for over a decade at this stage, and the entire space, if there is one word I can use to describe it, it's that, maybe not one word, it's the fact that there is absolutely no transparency. It's like active obscurity of information and data. And within that, I mean, think of like training data or benchmark data or even lobbying data, even though lobbyists are supposed to register and be transparent about, which government body they are lobbying and so on. There is just no transparency. And on top of that, I would like to add that, energy consumption data is also on the top of those really critical information, whether you are doing research or audits or evaluation, or whether you are a policymaker. You need that data to make informed decision, but this kind of data is simply not available. And I really love and applaud this project because it's doing really important work, uncovering and making visible data that the AI industry, large big tech corporations are actively kind of obscuring, actively hiding from. So this is an amazing project, and I really want it to become the norm. I really want it to succeed. And I think you are doing really great as it is, but if I have to comment on something, what I would say is to, the work you are doing is great, but in order to have the impact it can have, or the impact this kind of work can bring about, it would be important to kind of, have some kind of theory of change, so to speak, or some kind of clear objective that drives your work. I know you hinted about you are looking to work with, policymakers and government representatives, but there are a lot of like civil society organizations and other policymakers that could, utilize this kind of work to bring about actual, concrete change on the ground. So kind of baking that into your work pipeline would ensure that it brings about the impact that the work can have. Well done, thank you.
That's so great. Thank you. Okay. Okay, our last but definitely not least presentation is from a project developing a tool that helps non-technical users detect AI bias. So I want to welcome to the stage Bea from Fundación Vía Libre, and take it over. Here you go.
Yes, and I please, because of this, may I use that microphone?
You sure can.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Oh yeah, I see what you mean.
Okay.
All right. Yeah.
I'm too short.
You're perfect. It's perfect height. There's no too short. Yeah. Carry on.
Thank
5
you,
minutes.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Well, you can call us Evia. I'm coming here from Argentina. I'm from Fundación Vía Libre. I'm the president of Fundación Vía Libre. We've been in the field of free and open source software since 25 years now. And so we love openness, we love freedom, and we consider that people should be free in the using of technology. So, great. Well, what are the problems we are trying to address? We all know, and I think we all share these diagnostics, that LLMs are biased. They are trained with undisclosed data sets. They reproduce stereotypes. They marginalize all the small communities, especially coming from the global south. They reproduce inequalities. They leave vulnerable communities behind, and that this gap is already affecting the way we work, the way we learn, the way we do our daily life, the way we select what we want to see, everything. Everything is going to be impacted by these kind of technologies that are obscure and biased. So what was our approach? The first approach we had was to develop a tool, an open source tool we called IDEA, es Estereotipos y Discriminación en Inteligencia Artificial, Stereotypes and Discrimination in Artificial Intelligence. IDEA is an open source participatory platform to co-create data sets, to build data sets that reflect our own discriminations. Because discrimination works different in every part of the world. So the way we have stereotypes and discrimination in Argentina is quite different than the way it is in the North, in Europe, or in the US, or in Africa. Everyone has its own biases. So we built this tool that works in Spanish, but also in English, but we mainly wanted to work it in Spanish, to build our own data sets. And we've been working in building this our own data sets that reflects our contextual harms, our context, our culture, the way we see each other. And we've already have a data set with 45,000 sentences that is already reflecting our differences. Also, we develop instructional materials to share the knowledge we've been building and to bring the community to work with our platform, to share their views, to share what they do and how they feel in front of LLMs. What we are doing now, we are working on data collection. We are developing new tools to address not only biases, but other problems like hallucinations. And we are developing structural materials so we can work with this. And you, with no technical skills, could address biases and all the problems in LLMs. IDEA, this is you can see the tool here. And who are we working with? When we developed the tool and we developed all the ideas behind this project, we said, okay, who's going to be our target? With whom are we going to start? Because it's open for every community, but then we thought that maybe the educational system could be a good counterpart to work with. So we started working with school teachers, with teenagers, with their families, with the people in our community, and this is how we started. This photo has been taken last year in Córdoba. This is the National University of Córdoba. We had 500 teachers that came to our course that went through 5 months, and they came in fear. They said, okay, our students are already using AI, and we don't know what to do with that. So we've learned together how LLMs work, what are the biases, how could they implement our methodology in their own classrooms. And what we got after that was 700 teachers enrolled, more than 260 teachers that finished the course. We've impacted in 5,000 students. Our data set is now being shared in the EMNLP conference in China, thanks to this amazing team that it's based in the National University of Córdoba, with whom we have an agreement to work together in these issues. And this is mostly they are PhD students that are committed to do technology in a fair and open manner. And what we need? Well, we need to draw attention on research doing from the South, as it was mentioned before. We need to connect with colleagues doing the same work we are doing. We need to increase your feedback. Of course, we need to connect with potential funders to support our work. And we will ask you to spread the word about this kind of technologies that is being developed in the South. So thank you so much. That's it. And I will...
Amazing. Thank you. Amazing, thank you. Okay, so we're going to hear from Abeba and Gemma on this one. Yeah, Abeba, what you got?
An amazing project. This is a combination of both academic research, but also public communication. So you are actually doing the work, designing these materials, collecting an open source data, community sourced with local community participation by locals from locals, all great. Sorry, let me look at my, community-led and participatory. Wonderful. This is what, AI education that is really embedded within communities, within, educators, students themselves. This is what it looks like. Fantastic. If I have to add one point, if I have to give one constructive feedback is that I would have liked to see a little bit more emphasis on this. I would feel this is more like AI education. Someone who works in the critical AI space, the AI space is rife with, false dichotomies and, understanding and knowledge that comes from corporate PR and so on. So we need more than just education. We need critical education to reclaim, narratives, to build counter narratives. So a little bit more kind of critical AI education, like adding a little bit more kind of critical perspectives would be wonderful. Well done.
Yes, they are doing that.
Thank you. Gracias de nuevo. For me, working on AI bias was transformational in terms of my own work and the origins of Etica. So I really encourage you to continue to work on this. I think it's really important to raise awareness around the fact that bias in AI is not a bug, but a feature, and that unless we intervene at any stage of AI development and implementation, bias will continue to emerge, and so it needs to be identified and measured every step of the way, and that this is really important work. What I think is really innovative about what you're putting on the table is the focus on education. Because what I work, what you do is framed on, like around AI safety. And the people that we serve, our clients, our environment is very different. And so now we're working a lot on red teaming and involving experts on kind of hacking these systems to identify harms around bias, but also reliability, hallucination, as you were mentioning, issues around private information, confidentiality. So it's interesting that you're putting the focus on education, and it's very much needed. Because I think you're bringing something that we don't have enough of, which is a technical aspect in being able to teach students on how these systems work and how they capture and reproduce problems in society, but also problems in bias. So I would really encourage you to continue to work on this focus. Like, this is about education. This is about making teachers more technical in their work, giving them the tools to do this, helping students realize that the future is socio-technical, that everything about their future jobs will probably involve some sort of technology. But at the same time that I'm saying this, I really encourage you to connect to those efforts in, like, red teaming, AI safety, because I think you're going to find a lot of data sets, a lot of allies, and places also to continue to work on. I also think, I understand you have your project in Spanish and English. I would say drop the English. Everyone's working on English. Like, why focus on Spanish and other languages that may come along? There's so little work in Spanish. Like, for us being a bilingual organization, it's just incredible how much we know about how AI fails in English, but we have no idea about how it fails in Spanish or Arabic or Chinese, like languages that are spoken by tens of millions of people. So do focus on that, because I think that's where the value add of your project is.
Amazing. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Hang on, not yet. Okay. So we have just heard from our 4 projects, and now it is time to get your feedback. Not you, these guys. So actually, if you want to get out of the spotlight, you can. Yeah, go sit down, go slouch, but thank you so much. Okay, so moment of truth. We are going to give you the QR code that was flashed up there for just a second to vote. But before we do that, I just want to recap the projects, because I saw some people coming in, and I don't want you to think that maybe that was the best project if you haven't heard about the other ones. So there's 4 projects. The first is iClimate, focused on mapping methane. The second is Proyecto Respira, which is focused on community-driven air quality monitoring. The third is Code Carbon, so focused on measuring the carbon footprint of software. And the fourth one is Fundación Vía Libre, which is the one that you just saw. So those are going to be your options. And this is the question I want you to answer and kind of invoke when you're doing your voting. I want you to think which of these projects is most needed in the current moment. Okay? So reflecting a little bit on that question, I'm now going to show you a QR code, and you're going to have 2 minutes to submit your vote. Well, that's kind of intense. You guys all putting up your cameras. All right. Yeah. And I guess you can consult your neighbor, but if you could keep it to a minimum, that would be great. Get that vote in. Focus. And you also can't see the countdown, but I'll give you the 15-second warning. Now can you see it, or do I need to move the lectern as well? Yeah? Does everyone have the vote that they need to have? Because I can come around with a QR code. Can you get it? Is this helpful? Okay. Yeah. You get an I voted sticker, yes. Okay, this is your 1-minute warning. You can vote if you want, you know. I think so, yeah. Okay. The judges are abstaining from voting. This is your 30-second warning. Did I just hear the system is rigged? Jeez. 20 seconds. I still see some people thinking. In case you're wondering if you need that countdown, there's people weighing their options here. Okay, and just as a reminder, the winner is going to get an all-expenses-paid trip to the next MozFest and is going to be featured on the GitLab Foundation blog, so that basically a huge open source community is like, this is cool, I want to be involved, and I want to help these people take this project to the next step. Okay. So we've hit 0. I actually don't know what happens when we hit 0. Do we get the results in some way? How does this go? How does this work? I think there's a, can we get a drum roll? Is there like a, is a drum roll? There's something coming. There's something coming. I can feel it. I think. I see something happening in the back. Okay. This is too much fun. Okay. I feel like I now know what I want to do with the rest of my life. Okay. So the winner is Fundación Vía Libre. Yeah. We've got hugs. Incredible. Okay, so let's get hugs. There's all these hugs happening. Okay, so just as a, I feel like do I give you this? I just want to give you this. I don't know. Just take that to the airport next year, and then they'll get you on an airplane to MozFest. Okay, so thank you so much for participating in that, and also for listening to all these amazing presentations. Also, can we get a big round of applause for all the projects? So good. I will say all of these projects, based on that last slide where they said what they wanted help with, it sounds like they want to talk to you all. So if you can find them after, if you're interested in their projects, want to be a part of it, want to support, please do make them know that and respect their hard work. And I will say, I need to make sure I get all my thank yous right, just a second. So first I want to thank the panel of experts that spent time looking at the projects, working with the projects, giving them this wonderful feedback. So thanks to our judges. Thank you to Nabiha from Mozilla Foundation. And Ellie, from the GitLab Foundation. I personally think starting with that bigger picture question of how we fund these kinds of projects and how we get more money into this space to make more projects possible is a really important part of this conversation. So thank you so much for sort of platforming that. And also, lastly, I want to extend a huge thanks to all the folks involved in organizing this. I don't know if you can tell, but it's like pretty good. And there are a couple people, particularly the Mozilla Festival, Mozilla grant-making teams, and the Data Futures Labs team participated in putting all of this together. So if we can give a big round of applause to them. Cool. And yeah, I'll just say that this is part of a much longer project. This new incubator is going to be having the Democracy and AI cohort coming out next year. These projects have been supported and will continue to be supported by the cohort. So this isn't the end, it is in fact the beginning. So thanks to everybody that has been making this incubator possible because we want these projects to succeed. So give a round of applause to the incubator team. And my last plug is to keep an eye out for the call for proposals next year because you will be able to apply for this incubator if this is something that you want to do. So hopefully we will see some of you in the audience on the stage next year. Yeah? Yeah, cool. All right. You're free to go. Yeah.
Great job.
Yeah.
I would not be able to play that role well. But you should do this in your career.